Week 4 is upon us. We've got a lot of good matchups coming up this weekend. 2 Saturday games, 2 Sunday games. For those of us on the East Coast, it's going to be some late nights, but should be some good matchups. The pricing this week on Draftkings is a lot tighter. There's a lot to talk about, Ellie, so we better just jump right into this. What is up, guys? Welcome to the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Ellie Hernandez. Ellie, what's going on with you, man? How did you do week 3? I will admit, I didn't do too well. I ended up losing some money. I put way too much faith in non-Seattle teams and non-Vegas teams. So, what were your thoughts on that week? And how'd you do, man?
I think I'm in the same boat as you. Didn't do too excellent, but it still was a good learning weekend, right? I guess I've been kind of hesitant to overstack, but we know that you can do it now. You can throw 5 dudes from one team. You pretty much could have taken that whole offense and still had an optimal lineup.
Yep.
And probably not missed anywhere. So
yeah,
we learned. Feel free to play the dudes that are gonna score a shitload of points, right?
Yeah, man, I think we just can't overthink it anymore at this point. Like, we know what teams are looking good. We know what teams are going to go out and score points most likely. These offenses having multiple weeks now together with game speed, they're really starting to look a lot better. Now, we had pointed out the offensive lines, like, to start the year did not look good. I think they're starting to look a little bit better. The run games for some of these teams, they're not that impressive, but still, we're starting to see small improvements on all these teams. Even Orlando started to look like halfway decent, which we'll see, because they didn't play against a very good team. So we'll see how it goes this week going up against Houston. That's probably going to be another blowout, which is probably another team that we're going to want to focus on. But let's briefly talk about. I want to look at the winning lineup for week 3. So this one, who won this? Mark Fortunato 5. Looks like he put it in 35 lineups, 150K. Here was his lineup. It was DiNucci, Ellison, Gordon, Jackson, all from Seattle. Not run back, but we had Kirkland, we had Butler, and then look at that, Orlando Guardians defense. So what jumps out to you here? Obviously, look, there's 4 players from Seattle. I wasn't super huge on Ellison because I thought he would be a little bit over-owned and maybe not get there. He looked incredible. I'm a huge fan of his, on the field. But I thought 13 points maybe wouldn't get it done. But hey, he ended up in the optimal here, or in the winning lineup. This wasn't the optimal lineup by any means, but this is the winning lineup. What jumps out to you here, man?
Look, man, again, just 4 people from the same team is kind of crazy. No run back here either. I probably would have ended up with a 3-1 if that's what I was doing here. But kudos to this guy, man. He was right on. Like, if you built the way we were talking last week, I was kind of leaning towards Ellison as being the value play that I liked a lot, right? So if you kind of put him as the free square there, and you're just looking at the stack as DiNucci, Jackson, Gordon, like, even then it's pretty much in strategy with kind of how you should be playing with those cheaper plays. But yeah, man, it's pretty crazy. And again, look at defense. You're not paying up. You're not spending that $4,800. You're fine going down to $3,100 and getting these stud wide receivers. Like, at this point, like Kirkland, man, if he continues to be in a playable price range too, like, you just got to play him. He's been in the optimal almost every week. Him and Hakeem Butler.
I mean,
Josh Gordon too.
Yeah, Kirkland, man, he looks good. Hakeem Butler, man, we've been talking about this guy. I will totally celebrate this dude because we've been looking at him. Former Cardinals fan, like, I was super upset that we weren't able to utilize him as typically we would with the Cardinals. But a guy like Hakeem Butler looks incredible. He's the number 1 dude now on this offense. You got Aitman, who's probably going to be out for a minute. So clearly him, Shepard, Prohl, I'm looking forward to stacking them this week at home. But look, man, guess who wasn't in this lineup? Ja'Cory Pearson. So, the savings that you got with Blake Jackson, really, basically, Pearson only outscored him by like a point or so. And that salary savings that you got with Jackson and the salary savings that you got with the Guardians defense really allowed you to get these dudes like Kirkland and be able to get pretty much the most expensive stack of last week. All right. So what briefly, what mistakes did you make? I know the mistakes that I made was I put way too much faith in Kyle Slaughter. I knew I should have played a ton of Brett Hundley. I just knew it. We talked about it on the show. And as news like sort of progressed throughout the week, we saw that Slaughter was starting, and I'm like, dude, look at his pricing. He's like $6K. I screwed myself. I should have played way more Hundley and way more DiNucci. I'm just going to stop trying to be smart about it and play the teams with the best offenses. What did you learn before we move on?
No, same thing, man. Like play Ben DiNucci. He's gonna crush, and I feel like he's kind of like the Jameis Winston. Like this Seattle team is like the Bucks or whatever Jameis Winston team is at the time, right? They may not win the game, but they're gonna have turnovers. It's gonna look sloppy, but they're gonna put up some fucking fantasy stats.
Yes.
But one more thing on this lineup that I just noticed, like there's no tight end, man.
Yeah.
So just think about that stuff. Like you instead of punting the tight end position and paying up somewhere else, they punted defense, and then they were able to get all the stud wide receivers.
That's usually what's happening is you're punting with a tight end, and like that might be where we kind of go when we're hand building this week. That's just kind of they're so cheap, either that or pick Orlando wide receivers. That's pretty much your only other option. It seems like to me lately we've been seeing at least one Orlando, either defense, tight end, one guy in these lineups. So that's something to keep an eye on with how much value there is. There's cheap and they suck, but they got to throw the ball to somebody. All right, let's go to week 4 now. Let's look ahead. So we're recording this Thursday night. As of now, these are the numbers. If you guys want a copy of this, you can just jump into our Discord and you can just download it just as a quick reference if you're, building on your phone or whatever. This is just a quick reference to kind of see where this slate is landing and some of the stack options. Excuse me. So we're recording this on Thursday night on purpose. Last week we recorded a little bit earlier in the week. I just wanted to wait a little bit longer to talk about injuries. And you know what? In fact, let's actually look at injuries right now. My bad. Let's look at injuries first, and then we'll get back to this page. But all right, so we got to talk about San Antonio here to start off. So Vasher is out. He was decent value. He's going to be out. Jalen Tolliver looks like he's going to play. He is full practice Wednesday and Thursday. So when it comes to San Antonio, I was feeling pretty good about them last week. They didn't really do as much as I thought they were. So I'm maybe a little bit more down on them than their offense, but especially their pass game. But I'm still interested in guys like Tolliver for sure. So Ellison, the biggest injury to talk about here is probably Ellison. We don't know what his deal is. He's questionable with the knee injury. We saw him get hurt in that game. It didn't look good. Some of the guys in the Discord were like, man, it's too bad. Hopefully he'll be back next season. Like it looked kind of bad. Well, good news is he's limited. He didn't practice on Monday, but he's been limited the rest of the week. So we could see him get the start. Maybe they hold him out though. Who knows? We don't really have a lot of information when it comes to reporting and beat writers and stuff for these teams, so we're just kind of guessing. At this point, I would lean more towards he's probably going to be out for this game. And if that's the case, well, who do we go with? I mean, TJ Hammond, he looked pretty decent coming into that game at the end. I feel like he's more of one of these third down backs, though, that they'll kind of utilize in the pass game, utilizing some pass blocking, things like that on third down. I don't know who, if Ellison starts, I don't know that it's a slam dunk that TJ Hammond starts. Looks like Seattle signed this guy, Darius Bradwell. He's a former Chargers and Panthers running back. He's not on the slate now. Have you seen him, Ellie?
No, he's not on the slate. I'll reach out to DraftKings, see if they'll add him in. But if they do, he'll still be pretty similarly priced to probably TJ Hammond.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a chance that not a lot of people are going to know that he's probably not going to get a projection. So there could be some nice value there for a team like Seattle getting their starting running back. But TJ Hammond, I still like him as well. But we'll see, because if Morgan Ellison plays, I'm definitely interested in him again this week. So Max Borghi, one of our go-to guys pretty much every week. He's probably the most solid running back he has a high floor, reasonable ceiling. He's probably the guy that you want to look at every week at running back to at least try to fit him in. He's probable with a knee injury. He was full practice on Thursday. It looks like he's going to play. The thing that worries me here is with Cody Latimer. So for Orlando, the tight end, he's probable with the knee injury, but he was just added to the injury report on Thursday. He didn't play today, so I don't know what's going on there. That kind of worries me. Usually this late in the week, if you're added to the injury report, it's probably not good. We see this all the time with the NFL. you see this happening this late in the week, maybe there's a chance he doesn't play, but we'll see. I'm still hopeful that he does play because he's probably the best tight end at this point in the league, fantasy-wise. Ethan Wolf is out 2 weeks. So B. Riley Moore, the tight end for DC, should get to start. There's a guy named Alex Ellis that was added to the roster at tight end, so he could see some play time. But a B. Riley Moore guy, look, Ethan Wolf is like one of the top 5 tight ends as far as targets, receptions, yards. So I'm sorry, did I say Ethan Wolf? Yeah, Ethan Wolf is the top 5. So a guy like B. Riley Moore could just fill those shoes and get some decent production at a low price. Thoughts there before we move on?
Yeah, man, I'm right there with you. I'm sure that he's going to be close to the 2,500, just stone min price tight end. So right now, if we need a punt, I think that's going to be a viable option, especially as we kind of see the pricing get more efficient each week.
So for St. Louis, Marcel Aitman, I was really huge on him. I played him every week. I'm glad he's out. I mean, no offense to the guy. I hope he comes back, and I hope he's just take the time off and get healthy. Because now I don't have to play you. So I'm happy about that. And now it's a little bit more clear when it comes to Hakeem Butler. He's got a hamstring injury. He's probable. Looks like he's going to play, but he was limited in practice. Hakeem Butler's the guy. Him and Prohl and Shepard. You could probably switch out Shepard into that number 2 role at this point. Maybe. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. But I'm very interested in getting Hakeem Butler. And Brian Hill. He is probable, limited in practice. Looks like he'll play. He's always a good option. I love that dude. He got fined in that game. For some reason, I read that graphic. I thought he was suspended, and I panicked, and I started looking at backup options. But no, he's not suspended. He just got fined. And then Hundley with the thigh injury, he was limited in practice. Anything else jump out to you here? We can get to this bird's eye view.
No, let's get to the bird's eye.
All right, so we'll quickly go through this. So Houston is going into Orlando. I'm not going to go to this game, unfortunately. But should be an interesting game. I mean, Houston absolutely beat up on Orlando the first game. They're playing again. It's a 37.5 point total. It's a 9-point spread. The question here is, can Orlando at least put up some points? We know Houston's going to put up some points. Look, the thing is with Orlando is their defense is actually, on paper, they're not very good. They're giving up points. But, seeing them live and then just watching these guys out there play, they play hard on this defense. So I'm not saying there's going to be any upset or anything here. My biggest question is, can they actually put up any points? Because you got Latimer, Rogers, you got guys like that. And even some Paxton Lynch stacks at 17K. This is the lowest price stack. I mean, you could get anybody you want. Well, if you did a Lynch, Latimer, Rogers stack or something like that with one of those guys. Houston is going to be the chalk, most likely, besides Seattle, most likely here. So Kirkland, Burnett, that's going to be an expensive stack. What are your thoughts here? Any interest? Obviously, we're going to want to play a lot of Houston Roughnecks stacks this week and one-offs. Any interest in Orlando, just sprinkling some of these guys in?
No, man. I think I'm beyond the overthinking it. And Paxton Lynch just is not good enough, man. I really don't know. I don't like what I've seen out of the Orlando offense. I don't know if they're going to be consistent enough to get it going. Now, granted, it's still a 37.5 point total, 9 points. What that means, that's still 2 touchdowns that are implied, right? These conversions are harder than it looks. So getting 14 points, that might be 2 touchdowns and a field goal, right? So I don't know, man. They're going to have to pay off pretty high to be able to get what we need from Orlando. But I think you're right on. Houston being the chalk is probably what's going to happen. They're priced pretty nicely, especially compared to Seattle. But they should be able to crush. It's probably one of my favorite stacks this week, man.
So San Antonio going into Seattle. The weather is fine there. Seattle's minus 205 in the money line. This is a 40.5 total, and it's a 4.5 point spread. San Antonio, I was a little higher on them last week. They kind of disappointed. They really need to get their offense going. They looked good against Orlando, but everybody does. So that kind of excited me a little bit, but I should probably not get so excited about teams that beat Orlando. The Sea Dragons here, this should be a smash spot for them. I know that the Brahmas, their defense is a little bit better. They're, probably top 3 defense if you look at it. But I don't think they can stop a Sea Dragons team that's going to come out and just throw the ball like crazy. Bandanucci stacks, Pearson, Gordon, Blake Jackson. I mean, just name it. Any VC. I mean, anybody on this team. If you wanted to get different, just don't play Pearson and Gordon together. There's an opportunity that one of these other cheaper dudes on this team can get you there. We saw it. You didn't need Pearson. You needed Blake Jackson in that other lineup, and he didn't score as many points. It's all about the pricing. So if you can get a cheaper guy at wide receiver, or TJ Hammond if he's active, or if he's starting, or at least has a heavy role, you could look at him. Thoughts on this matchup?
I think this is another one that you got to prioritize. And this one, I think you can consider the Brahmas, Jack Cohn and that offense stacking being close to 18,000, right? That's going to give you a lot of flexibility, especially as everything gets a little bit more efficient on the pricing scale. And then obviously play Ben DiNucci in this offense. I think ways to get different are exactly what we saw the winner last week do. Instead of, pivoting off the chalk, he just played more. Right, you went with 4-0 stacks. Yeah. Nobody was doing that, so that works. I mean, maybe don't play Gordon like you said. Play Pearson, Jackson, and Hammond again, or whoever the running back is in this situation. So look, I love Seattle, and I think you can have a little bit of exposure to San Antonio.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm game stacking this. I think I'm just going to go heavier Seattle and leave that San Antonio offense off my run back. Probably the first game I'll do a little bit of game stacking because of how cheap Orlando is, but I don't think I'm touching this game when it comes to overall game stacks. Probably just Seattle, like two-man stacks or three-man stacks. All right, so going to Sunday here, we have the Renegades going into St. Louis. That stadium is going to be packed. I believe they're going to even open up the 400 level. Like that entire stadium could be completely close to getting maybe not sold out, but there's going to be a shitload of people there. It's really going to help with the attendance numbers. That place is going to be rocking, man. Arlington Renegades, they switch quarterbacks to Slaughter. Their offense has not looked good. Their defense hasn't really looked good either. This is just kind of a blah team. I mean, they're probably the second worst team behind Orlando at this point in the year. So what are your thoughts here, man? I think this is a smash spot for St. Louis. This is their first home game. I mean, they're not actually there, but that's their home crowd. So thoughts on this, man? AJ McCarron. Oh man, I'm excited to get stacks with him, but this is a 36.5 point total. Is that more about Arlington not being able to keep up? What are your thoughts on this total?
I don't think that the total really concerns me all that much. I mean, everything's within, really 6 points at this point, between this and the highest projected game. So yeah, I think Vegas is still trying to get a feel for what these games are going to end up, right? The last week Vipers game and Seattle game was projected for 38, and that shit went off for 51 or something like that. So they're still learning, man. But yeah, I think this is another smash spot for AJ McCarron. I think that just kind of looking at the stack prices compared to Brett Hundley, that people might just kind of take the savings and go with Brett Hundley and stack up that team against DC. But AJ McCarron might come in a little bit lower owned than what we're anticipating. Obviously, guys, we don't have ownership projections quite yet, or at least not considering with all the injury information that just came out. But yeah, look, I like the Battlehawks. And then again, I think this is another side where you can consider getting a little bit of exposure to the Renegades. If you're doing a 150 max and you want to do something to solo a contest, you might want to think about doing a Kyle Slaughter stack with Vaughns and Canella. It's a nice stack. You're going to be able to run it back with some pretty solid pieces in the Battlehawks, and then you can probably get some decent pieces from all the other games.
Yeah, I think Devion Smith, Canella, Vaughns, if you're just looking for one-offs, Canella is always a pretty high floor option. But in this matchup, man, I'm not super excited about playing the Renegades. I think the field is going to be with me. I think the ownership is going to drop for this team simply just because of the environment they're going into. I mean, it's going to be a big deal. I mean, I know that these players have speakers in their helmets, but we see it in the NFL all the time. I mean, these dudes are, trying to listen. They can't hear. That could actually affect things. So let's move on to, and obviously St. Louis lost last week to the Defenders. The DC Defenders are at home. They're going up against the Vipers. That's a rematch. That game, that was that showdown slate that I hit that 15K in the rain. Guess what? This is in the rain as well. This is in DC this time. There could be some rain. We have to wait on this. It's Thursday. This is, a Sunday night game, so things can change, but just keep an eye on that. But still, look at the total. This is a 42 total. I like the defenders, but are they getting a little bit too much love from Vegas? Like, I think they're a pretty solid team, but they don't really have a quarterback that can reliably, that can throw the ball. I mean, they're rotating quarterbacks in and out. That doesn't really bode well for the success long term. Is their defense just that good that are you going to be super interested in them going up against the the Vipers? Because Hundley, man, he's starting to look good.
Yeah, man. Look, so I think the way that you approach DC is you kind of this is like a Lamar Jackson stylistically type offense for me. Like I'd rather just take the quarterbacks in a running situation and throw them in naked, maybe build up my lineup some other way. I think maybe you can try and get a little bit of exposure to their defense, maybe, but I'm really not. I'm not feeling the -6 here, right? We saw Vegas kind of get in a rhythm last week. Yeah. It was a tough game, but that offense got it going. If they're comfortable, I mean, Brett Hundley is supposed to be the best quarterback in this league. So, if NFL quarterback or even a backup NFL quarterback is out there playing with a bunch of scrubs, man, they should tear it up. So, I think Vegas has a chance here. This might be an interesting one to put a little bit of money just on the money line, right?
Yeah.
Like just for Vegas to win outright.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about the Vipers because besides Badet, man, you just can't really trust any of these other. They have, in my opinion, probably the best receiver core. At least I thought they did. Now it's probably looking like Seattle or St. Louis, probably, or even Houston. The Vipers, guys like Geronimo Allison and Martavis Bryant, man, he's been a real disappointment. I was kind of critical of people who are kind of calling this guy a bust already in the XFL. Maybe it's true. Maybe it is. I hate to say it. I mean, in that week 1 game, he got a couple receptions. He looked physical. He looked pretty good, but they weren't really throwing him the ball much. And with Hundley now, it's even more so that they weren't really getting him the ball. So when it comes to stacks here, man, I think a guy like Sweeting could be the way to go here to save some money instead of risking it again on Geronimo Allison and what's his bucket, Martavis Bryant. So thoughts on this Viper defense, and we'll get on to the breakdown here, or Viper offense.
I think the strategy here is kind of be a little bit more balanced on your exposure to the receiving core. Goddamn receiving core. The Seattle team, Seattle Sea Dragons. They got 2-3 guys that they're going to target. Right, you can spread it out a little bit with the Vegas Vipers. They're still getting a little bit of a rhythm. We got to find out what Brett Hundley likes, man. So I think you're right. I think you take some stabs on guys here, and you might even be able to just punt on a guy that you think might break out.
And we brought it up before, man. He can run the ball. We saw it happen. He had one that was called back. It was like a 30 or 40 yard run. He can run the ball. He had a rushing touchdown. And look, in a game like this, in the rain, maybe you just put Hundley and Badet together and you run it back with Smith or Raquel Armstead or something like that. That is interesting to me. All right, let's get into this breakdown. We're going to go position by position. Should be quick. Let's do it. Break it down. All right, so at quarterback, Ben DiNucci. Let me sort by salary. I always do that. Ben DiNucci, 10.8K. AJ McCarron, 10.7K. Hundley, 10K straight up. That's a big increase from last week, obviously. And then you got Brandon Silvers at 9,700. I mean, look, all 4 of these guys, these are the 4 guys that I think you got to concentrate most of your ownership on. You could always get weird with a Slaughter or a Paxton Lynch or Teamu or something with a couple of lineups. But if you're, doing 150 lineups, or even if you're doing 20 lineups, I think majority of your exposure needs to come to these guys. Who's your favorite guy here? Obviously, Ben DiNucci is the easy answer. But he's going to be the highest owned quarterback. He's the most expensive, so it's going to be hard to get stacks with him. You're going to have to punt in other ways. What are your thoughts here, man? Who's your favorite guy?
It's got to be Brandon Silvers, man. 9,700. He's projected fairly close to some of these other guys, but that extra 1,000 is going to give you a little bit of flexibility. We don't really know how good Orlando is. Yeah, their defense has been okay, and defense has been pretty good, but Houston's offense is something else, man. I like them. So I think 9,700, you can get a lot of stacks there. But look, I think you're right on. Like kind of have balance exposure to these guys. Figure out a way that you can get a decent amount of exposure to Ben DiNucci. We just know that they're going to throw the ball so much that it's kind of hard to not get a decent amount of these guys. But I, to your point, I also do think Jack Cohn, Kyle Slaughter, moderately viable in large field GPPs. If you're running a single entry or 3 max, please, for the love of God, don't do it. But if you're in a 150 max, I don't mind running a little bit with them just because of the flexibility you get on salary.
If you had a gun to your head, which quarterback here are you playing in tournaments?
Tournaments? I mean, it's going to be a shitload of Brandon Silvers. And then, probably just rotate in Hundley and McCarron.
Would you think for cash that DiNucci is the way to go?
Damn, dude. I think DiNucci or Silvers, man.
Yeah, I agree.
But probably DiNucci right now, just based on what he's getting projected on RotoGrinders.
Yeah, probably DiNucci and one pass catcher because you're just not going to be able to afford anybody else. All right, let's go to running backs. Excuse me, Max Borghi. We talked about him. He's dealing with a little injury. He should be fine. He's 9,300. Abram Smith, 8,400, Balaj, 81, and Devion Smith, 7,300. So these are kind of your top end dudes. What guy jumps out to you here, man? Borghi obviously is the go-to guy. He's like the safest play every week. Sometimes it can hurt you though because he's so expensive, and there's opportunity for some of these other running backs to break out here. We'll get to the mid-level guys when it comes to pricing here in a second. But who's your favorite dude here? We've kind of forgotten about Balaj over the last few weeks, right?
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with just kind of his middling target volume in the past game, right? But right now, I think the guy that I'm looking at the most is probably going to be Devion Smith. He's projected nicely, and that 7,300 price tag's a little bit easier for me to commit to than 9,300 for Max Borghi right now. But even then, like, I don't mind getting a little bit of a guy like Brian Hill, 6,600.
Yes.
He's going to be a decent play. And then, you got a guy like Raquel Armstead at 4,300.
Yes.
We know that DC is going to run the ball, right? So I don't mind taking kind of flyers on guys like that in a game like this. And then obviously this is all dependent on what happens with Morgan Ellison, right?
Yeah.
If he's out, then TJ Hammonds, or if the other guy gets activated or added to the Draftkings pool, is going to be a smash play. But if Hammonds gets to start 3,300, I'm going to close my eyes, just fucking play him.
Yeah, and I think a guy like Abram Smith at his price, obviously he's probably one of the higher upside dudes, especially going against Vegas. Vegas proved that they can't stop this run game. So, I mean, now that they've had some time to kind of adjust, maybe they can stop these guys a little bit more, but I don't see it happen. I mean, I see Abram Smith, Armstead, I see King, Teamu. Every one of those dudes to me is in play, and I wouldn't even mind going Teamu and Abram Smith together with just naked, just those two dudes, Let's go to wide receiver. So Josh Gordon is 10.6K, Ja'Cory Pearson 10.3. Then you got Badette 9,700, Burnett 93, Kirkland 89, Butler at 83. Let me get rid of Marcel Aitman here, hopefully forever. Thoughts on these top end dudes? Badette obviously is always interesting, but you're going to have to get one at minimum, in my opinion, of these Seattle guys. There's just no question about it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think I might just let the optimizer decide that one and just set a rule. Like, give me a minimum of one of these guys in every lineup. Yep. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That might be the easiest way. If I had to choose one, I think I'd probably just go. I guess Pearson at this point. I mean, but like Kirkland, he's priced nicely. I don't know. There's plenty of flexibility on these guys. I think you get his. My bad. I didn't mean to go down to Kirkland. Josh Gordon, Pearson, and then Blake Jackson. Sorry, guys. I'm still memorizing everything. But Blake Jackson, I mean, he's still priced so nicely too that he might be a part of like our cash core when we're building with
I think so. Yeah, I think so. At 7,500, I mean, he's popping up all over the place just because of that price. Even a guy like Jordan Vesey for this team, maybe not so much Juwan Green, even though I think he did get a couple catches. Anyways, I think all these dudes are in play for Seattle. When it comes to Houston, I think, in my opinion, Houston, Silvers, Burnett, and Kirkland, that stack is just such a solid stack. I know that Burnett kind of fell off 2 weeks ago, I believe. But, I think both of these dudes are 1A, 1B type guys. Jontre Kirkland, that dude's going to be in the NFL next year. Like, he is good. Hakeem Butler, obviously, we're interested in him. Name off a couple of these other random dudes that we're not gonna go through every one of these guys. Obviously, jump in the Discord if you want to talk more about these dudes. Any of these guys jump out to you? Like Lucky Jackson, look pretty good. Who else is jumping out?
Yeah, I like Lucky Jackson. Tyler Vaughn's 4,600. He's not terrible. I think you mentioned him on your slide. You got Sidney Sweeney. Sweeting.
We're calling him Sidney Sweeney.
For the Vegas Vipers, right? Like at 4K. I think there's a lot of decent guys. I mean, dude, Eli Rogers is down to 3,100.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I just feel like there's a lot of viable plays here, man. Like especially in that lower range where I'm going to be willing to play some of these guys.
Like you got to get some of these. You got to get multiple studs. Like we have opportunities to play a lot of wide receivers. I think you should. It's probably not going to be a good opportunity. It's probably not going to do well for you to play two running backs unless some outlier situation happens. Get the studs, find one value wide receiver that is on a good offense that could get you 10, 12, 15 fantasy points, and go from there. That's my opinion on it. Tight ends, Sal Cannella, he's going to be the easiest tight end to play every week. But look, Cody Latimer is at 5,600. He's still cheap, probably because he's on a bad team, but he's probably, as of now, the best fantasy tight end so far this year, which is a big surprise. And then you got Elise Mack, Dion Yelder, and then this B. Riley Moore dude at 2,500. Who's your favorite guy here? Are you going to be interested in trying to get some of these dudes besides Latimer? Because I think he's just the most obvious play here, right?
Yeah, I want Latimer. I know this is kind of crazy, but can you look on Roto Grinders? Do you see Sal Cannella? Oh, there we go. Never mind. My shit was just fucked up. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, Sal Cannella is just a little bit too expensive for me. I'll have some exposure to him in my my stacks if I decide to stack Arlington. Cody Latimer, 5,600. But I think we need to really look back at that lineup, right? There were no tight ends in that winning lineup. Yeah. I think you got to consider punting this position or, maybe fading altogether unless they're paying off and like you're getting a 7,800 Sal Cannella at 14 fantasy points. You need the price per dollar, the points per dollar to pay off. So like I might either punt or just play like exclusively Alize Mack or Elise Mack. You know what I mean? At 3,200, like he's going to get a shitload of volume. He's the guy. Like, yeah, 3,200. He's a fairly safe punt. Yeah. But even then, like I think I might even be more comfortable playing Eli Rogers just because I know he's got explosive upside.
Yes, exactly. I think if they're in the same price range as some of these lower end wide receivers, you just default to the wide receivers most likely. Sal Cannella is a good cash option again. He's probably him and Borgie are kind of those go-to guys that you can at least get a halfway decent floor from and still a decent ceiling. Besides that, Cody Latimer is probably my guy here. So let's go to defense. As we talked about earlier, hey, sometimes these defenses, they make a big difference. You get a defense that scores you 22 fantasy points because they got 5 sacks and a pick 6. You're going to need that. Some weeks, going with the Guardians defense at 3K in order to get all these studs and get the Ben DiNucci stacks and the Gordons and the Badettes all in one lineup, it could be worth it. What defense is the defense that you're like, nah, I don't think I'm going to play too much of them? And obviously, which one, the Roughnecks are probably the most obvious one, right? To start.
Yeah, to start, I mean, they're leading the league in sacks and 5 picks on the year. Only 1 forced fumble. I don't know. That doesn't make sense. They have 2 fumble recoveries, so I might have to go back and look at that official XFL stat there. Roughnecks are fine, but again, like paying up that much, 5K for a defense, like that's just too much for me, right? I think you can go down to a team like the Vipers, even the Brahmas. Like they're not going to be in a great position, but we know that Ben DiNucci might throw a pick or just fumble, something along those lines. So. I think that's viable. Brahmas have 9 sacks on the year. DC defenders, they got 10. Where are they at? They're kind of, well, they're still a little bit expensive, but
Yeah.
look, man, I think I'll play anybody under 4,000. I don't know if I'm going to really get it anybody above 4K.
I think the Battlehawks to me are probably like the safest, in the middle. I think they can get you a halfway decent amount of points. 4,100. It's a pretty nice option. They're at home. They have the crowd to help them out a little bit, and they're not a bad defense. And look, they're going against Arlington. Arlington has not looked good on offense necessarily. Slaughter he got his first start last week. I don't know how much better or more improved he's going to be this week, especially with a tougher matchup. So me personally, I'm going to get every one of these defenses. I'm going to cap. I'm probably not going to play the Renegades. I know that sounds crazy and it might come back to bite me, but I might uncheck them because they're 5K going up against St. Louis, and I'm going to have a ton of St. Louis stacks. I might not play them at all, but I'll probably cap a lot of these defenses at like 15 to 20% and just crank the randomness and let it fall where it may, because you just don't know where these defenses are going to land. Even the Brahmas, like you were saying, they could give up 30 points and still get you, 12, 14 fantasy points with a couple turnovers, a couple sacks, a pick six, or a fumble recovery. At 3,500, man, I'm not saying that's the team that you want to target, but I personally am not going to, if I'm hand building, the defense is going to just fit in with the rest of my lineup, depending on the lineup. All right. So let's look at our stacks here. We have actually, before we get to that, let's look at this graphic from Scottradamus from the Discord. Another week 3. So if you look at the actual true optimal lineups from last week, 174.28 was the top score. And look at the salary used. You're seeing 48, 49, 48. They're not leaving a lot of money on the table. And even the winning lineup on DK, which scored 158 points, that used 49.5K salary. The salary's getting tighter. We're gonna, I was never, putting maxes on my salary anyways. But I don't think you have to get, you probably want to use up as much salary as you can, because these salaries are getting tighter and tighter and tighter every week, right? What jumps out to you here?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head here. Over the past few weeks, we've seen salaries as low as 38,000, 36,000. Lowest we got this time is 45,000. We got another in the 46,000s. Everything else is 48,000 and above. So you can see the kind of salary variance is tightening up. You'd almost be able to call those two outliers at this point, because the data is so collected into the group that it's in.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think we just got to keep that in mind. We got to be more efficient with our pricing, and we have to. Now is where we find edges by finding guys like, and I'm not saying Eli Rogers is going to be the value play of the week, but having a guy who may potentially be mispriced in comparison to where he was in previous weeks. 3,100 might be a very high upside play this week where he may not have been last week.
Yeah.
So we got to keep an eye on stuff like that now.
I totally agree, man. That's a really good point. Join that Discord, guys. There's a lot of great information like this in there. There's a lot of good dudes in there. I'm usually asking a lot of questions too. There's a lot of smart guys in there. All right, let's go to our stacks/value. We'll look at our top stacks now. Sorry if this is a little hard to see, but probably my favorite stack this week is McCarron, Butler, and Shepard. And then I don't want to run back with this stack. I'm not saying that this is like my optimal lineup. I just wanted to give you like an example of how some of these stacks are going to work out. I'm getting a Blake Jackson in there. I'm going with the Roughnecks defense. The other favorite stack that I'm looking forward to is Brett Hundley with Badette, and then run it back with one of these DC defender guys, whether it's Lucky Jackson, Armstead, Smith, whoever that is. They're a little bit expensive, so you're going to have to probably find a little bit of value in guys like Blake Jackson and Latimer, things like that. Ellie, talk to me about some of your favorite stacks.
Yeah, so we'll start with the kind of crazy one here with Kyle Slaughter. Again, this is something that I'm looking more for just a deeper GPP tournament. Again, we still don't know 100% what kind of talent we have on these teams, and Kyle Slaughter is priced nice enough as the pricing becomes more efficient to be able to jam in some interesting studs. And, I do expect this AJ McCarron offense to come in maybe 10-15% owned. The stacks aren't going to necessarily, they're not going to be chalk, but they are going to have some ownership.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty decent pivot off of it. You can still run back with Hakeem Butler. This would be an excellent scenario to run somebody back with the Battlehawks. But I think it's a decent GPP play. Outside of that, man, I like Brandon Silvers and John Trey Kirkland, who am I just picking guys who used to play for the Cardinals at this point?
I guess.
But yeah, Silvers, Kirkland, plus anybody. I do like a little bit of Max Borgi. We'll see. This was initially earlier in the week before we kind of had an idea that we might have a 3,300 running back on the slate. So that'll obviously change some things here. But Brandon Silvers, Kirkland, plus literally anybody else in this offense, I think can go 3-0. I think you can consider running it back.
What are your thoughts on some value? I know you sent me a couple value plays that you were interested in. I know we're still waiting on some news, and that'll change, which we'll talk about in the Discord, obviously. But who are some of your favorite value picks, not only in stacks, but as one-offs, just to kind of fit all these studs in?
Yeah, I think one of the guys that really stood out to me was Tyler Vaughns. Right, he's pretty cheap. And then we saw another guy. I said his name earlier. I'm sorry.
Who was it? Who are you thinking?
3,100. Eli Rogers.
Eli Rogers. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
My bad. He's he's still in a decent spot. Travell Harris, he's 5,300. He's a little bit more risky, but he is going to get some run on the Houston offense, right? So I think that these are different pieces that you can kind of throw in to help save a little bit of money. But if you're just going to be playing like one-offs, I think Tyler Vaughns is probably my more consistent guy. He'll probably be like value that I'll play in cash builds and smaller GPPs. Eli Rogers, I like for just about any GPP. 3,100 is a pure punt play, to be honest with you.
I agree, man. I know it's risky with him, but like I was there at that game. Which game was that? They got blown out against the Brahmas, and the team looked bad. Eli Rogers was involved. He was on the field a lot. He was always getting looked at. They just couldn't connect, and he did score a touchdown in that game. So I do like him. I'm you don't have to have 50% of him. Just play 10%.
Right.
You're going to be way over the field if you play like 5 to 10% of him because nobody's going to play him. For me, I think because Vasher is out. If you look at Darius Robertson Jr. from San Antonio, I'm not huge on San Antonio's offense, obviously, but he's at 3,900. That's a really good choice. Another guy that I like at his price is Raquel Armstead at 4,300. We saw him have a pretty decent game against Vegas last time. If it's raining again, they're gonna run the ball a lot. And Armstead's kind of the guy, man. He can get utilized quite a bit. I know that Abram Smith is their number one pick, and he's the guy that they're gonna want to try to get more snaps to. But I think this is like a 55-45 situation in favor of Abram Smith barely when it comes to snaps. Raquel Armstead at 4,300 is nice. All right, let's look at our lineups here. All right, so we're going to build a handful of lineups together. Ellie, where do we want to go? I haven't, because of some of this news that's come out recently, I haven't really locked down a cashy build or a single entry build that I like. Let's talk about this. Let's build that first, and then let's get into some of these stacks and build there. What are your thoughts? Do we want to go with DiNucci, or do we want to go with Brandon Silvers going against Orlando because he's a little bit cheaper?
Let's start with DiNucci just to feel it out.
All right, let's go to DiNucci. All right, who are we going to pair with him? Do we want to pay up for Pearson, who has a high floor, or do we want to get a guy like Blake Jackson at his price? Or do we want two pass catchers?
I think we go with Blake Jackson. Let's start with Blake Jackson and Pearson just to see how it works, man.
All right, so where are we going now? I don't know that we can afford Borgie here. Do you want to go with Ellison and assume he's in, or do you want to go down to TJ Hammond, or who do you want to go with here? Do you want to punt here? Like, we got to find a guy that has some pretty decent ownership and a pretty high floor for these lineups. So who are you thinking?
I honestly like Raquel Armstead for this.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, screw it. Let's do it. Now we got 5,700 a pop here. We got two flex spots. Is this a Hakeem Butler situation? Who am I missing here? What other dudes here should we be trying to fit in?
Uh,
Bidet,
Kirkland.
Kirkland, yeah, Kirkland, 8,900. All right, so now maybe should we let? So we got 8,200. We're gonna have to find a little bit of value here. Where are we going? Are we going Cody Latimer,
Can you go ahead and throw in Tyler Vaughns?
Vaughns, 3,600 defense? I don't know that this is a cash build, in my opinion. This is a damn good tournament lineup with the Brahmas. Let me save that. Probably not a cash build with guys like Armstead and Vaughns in here and Brahmas. So let's kill those two dudes. Let's kill Armstead. Let's do this. Let's assume that Ellison is out. Does that work for you?
That works.
Either that or we could go with Brian Hill, because I think Brian Hill is a pretty decent option here. But let's assume that Ellison's out. Let's go TJ Hammond's here because he's 3.3K. And if Ellison's out, this is going to be your cash guy to go with, unless they add that other dude. So 9,200. Right. We got to get a defense here that we're confident in, and it also has some. We don't want to get a 2% owned defense here in our single entries. Maybe that's good. Who knows? But I'd rather just go with probably the Roughnecks, right, or the Battlehawks. Probably. I mean, Battlehawks. I don't mind that at 4,100. That gets us a little bit more room.
Yeah, I like the Battlehawks.
All right, so 5,100. We got a flex spot for 5,100. What does that do for us here? Where does that land us? Lucky Jackson. That's not bad. Tyler Vaughns. You got a player going against the defense, but that doesn't really scare me much. There's really nobody else here that I'm super interested, unless we get other injury news here. Should we switch one of these dudes out? Should we take Pearson out?
Yeah, pull out Pearson.
Because we got too many Seattle guys. I mean, that's just Hammonds and Blake Jackson is fine. So at this point, can we go with Bidet with a little bit of savings?
What about Hakeem Butler? Why not
Hakeem Butler? Let's do that. I like it. Hakeem Butler, 7,100. That's more like it. So Darius Shepard, I'm not gonna do some weird 2 wide receiver defense stack here for this particular lineup. You got Josh Hammond, Tolliver. That's a little risky. I don't know, man. What do we do here? This is still weird.
Yeah. Let's see.
I mean, Butler's probably the choice. We've gone low on our defense. We saved a couple hundred by going to the Battlehawks over Houston. Kirkland, I feel like, is a good option. I don't know, man. This is why Ben DiNucci. This is why, for me, it's kind of hard. It's really just kind of hard to get a solid cash lineup with him. Do you want to build it with Silvers here?
Yeah, let's go Silvers.
All right, let's build with Silvers. This might be a little bit easier. We're gonna put two. You want to put 2 pass catchers with him, or you just want to do one dude? Kirkland, probably.
Let's start with one. Let's start with one pass catcher. Let's just go Kirkland.
All right. I mean, any interest in Borgie here? I know it's a weird stack for a cash build, but these guys all have high floors. They're all going against Orlando. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm actually fine with Borgia here.
All right. So let's do that. Now we got to get one guy from Seattle. We know that. I know Pearson is the safe bet, but I don't know that we can afford him, man. Do you want to go Blake Jackson here? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I still like Blake Jackson, man.
All right. So
I don't feel like Gordon Pearson should be that priced ahead of him. You know what I mean? He should probably be closer to 8,500.
It's never been this hard to build a cash build so far this year. Like, the pricing is getting real tight. We don't have a lot of salary saver dudes. Where do we go, man? What else? We got to probably try to get. I mean, look, the highest total on the slate is that DC Vipers game. We're probably going to get some assets from there. Do you want to go like Bidet and Armstead? Can we even do that? I don't know.
Do we want 2 running backs?
We could. Like who?
Let's throw in Bidet and Armstead. Let's see if we can what that gives us for defense.
I don't think so. No, we're not going to be able to get him.
Okay.
Bidet, it's just too much with Bidet, unfortunately. So
What about
Go ahead.
What about Bidet and Latimer?
We'd have
He's
to
more
go.
expensive.
We'd have to go like a $2,500 tight end.
Yeah.
You know, or Orlando Guardians defense, which isn't going to work in this lineup, and you wouldn't want to do that anyways. This is tough, dude. Hey, we're gonna have to keep playing with this.
What about this? Like, this might be crazy as hell, but what about like Alize Mack and then just throwing in like the best available flex we can get?
Let's look. How much is Mac? He's
32. No, that's not going to work either.
Yeah, it's not going to work either. I want somebody from this DC Vipers game, and the guy that you want to get is probably Bidet. So let's take Borge out. Let's assume. This would really be helpful if TJ Hammonds is the guy. Because this is going to make a lot of our lineups a lot easier to deal with. So we got Hammonds and Blake Jackson with Silvers and Kirkland. That's going to help us get to what we need to do here. Let's go with Bidet. We got 10.9K. Let's just grab our defense first. Let's go with, do we want to put in Roughnecks and see what that gets us since we haven't used them yet?
Sure.
Or is that too much with Silvers, Kirkland, and Roughnecks? Probably not.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
All right, it leaves us 6,100. So hey, guess who that gets us? Cody Latimer. I know you're this is some weird game stack and you're running a player against the defense. I don't think that matters much. Now you don't have to get Latimer. Let's look at other options here at 6,100. He's probably the best option. You got Austin Prohl. I don't know. Maybe Prohl. But probably Latimer. It's probably Latimer. This is weird, man.
What about instead of Bidet, what happens if you throw in Akeem Butler?
Yeah, that's a good option. Let me pull Latimer out here for now. Akeem Butler. Where are you at, bro? Shite. There he is. 7,500 for the last spot. That does something for us. That gets
and we wanted Seattle. Do we have Blake Jackson yet?
Yeah, we do. Devion Smith.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know, man. This is okay. We're gonna have to really dial this in. We're gonna have to wait until we get some more injury news because for this like single entry build that we want to do, this is the lineup that I want to build for. I don't know. There's there's $100 single entry. There's some of these other single entries that I really want to get into, and what I'm usually gonna end up doing is probably one of the guys that I feel like from this lineup that I enter that I feel like maybe a little bit over-owned for the chance opportunity that they're actually in the optimal. Their ownership is higher than that. I may end up going under the field on my tournament builds. I don't know who that's going to be yet, but it's going to be somebody. So let's start building our tournament lineups. Let's build like a couple, and then we'll move on. We're at about 52 minutes here. We'll wrap this up quick. Who do you want to go with first for tournaments? This is where we're going to have some more fun.
Let's leave Brandon Silvers up real quick, and then we'll move on from him.
All right. So, do you want to do a 3-0 here?
Yeah.
Or do you want to do a run back?
Maybe we might run back with what's their tight end?
Latimer or Rogers, either one.
Yeah, Latimer probably. Or Eli Rogers. Yeah, exactly. 3,100. You know what? Yeah, just go ahead and do Eli Rogers. So throw in
Kirkland,
the 4,700 running back from DC.
Raquel Armstead. Okay, 4,300. Yeah. Let's pair Silvers
Kirkland
first here. Kirkland. Now, do we want to go? Burnett, or do we want to go with another Houston pass catcher here? Travell Harris. I hate to say it, but Holly.
Let's go Kirkland Burnett.
Okay. Burnett. Okay. So, let's. You want to run it back with Latimer here?
Eli Rogers.
Eli Rogers. Okay, cool. Screw it. I like it. Where is he? He's all the way down here, right? There he is. All right, Rogers. All right, we got one flex position. Do you want to put your defense in now, or do you want to? We can pretty much get whoever we want. I think. Up into probably the 8K range, I think.
Yeah. Honestly, let's start with Hakeem Butler and just see
Yeah.
what that puts us at defense.
I think that puts us somewhere pretty decent here. Let me lock him in. 64. Oh, yeah, we can do whatever the hell we want.
Oh, well, like in all reality, I might run like 10 variations of this lineup.
Let's go DC defenders with
Do
Raquel
this and then
Armstead. You know, that's a nice little correlation there. Houston stacks Silvers, Kirkland, Burnett, run back with Eli Rogers. We got Hakeem Butler in there, and then you got Armstead and defenders defense. It's pretty. It's a pretty lineup. It all adds up. Now, instead of Rogers here, you could actually go up 4,900. Does that bias anything? Is there any reason to do that? Let's look. 4,900. Lucky Jackson, that's probably not what we want to do. I'd probably come down off of the defender's defense. Tyler Vaughn's.
Yeah, we got Tyler Vaughn's. He's a guy that we were talking about all slate.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I like him. Even then, you can leave in what's his name at 3,100. And from Hakeem Butler, you can go up to you got Badet, Borgie.
So leave Eli Rogers in as that stack there. Let's do that actually, and let's come off of Butler and see what we can get. We can get 10 point. That's 10.1. Not quite Pearson. We didn't really
actually go ahead and throw in Pearson and let's just kick down the defense.
Yeah, we need to because we didn't follow our rule there about Seattle getting one guy. So 4,400, that puts us probably most likely Battlehawks defense. Does that mess with? Is that any weird correlation? No, nope, it's not. That's not bad. Now you can do obviously this Armstead. If Hammond is starting, you can go down from that. But let's actually do. Let's try to conquer this Ben DiNucci stack, right? I think you probably got to do Ben DiNucci and 2 pass catchers in this situation. I don't know that we want to run back on this, maybe, but we can't do Pearson and Gordon. We probably can. Do you want to go with Pearson and VC, or do you want to go Blake Jackson and Pearson, or Blake Jackson and Gordon? What do you want to
do? I like Pearson and Jackson.
Okay. High floor, high ceiling for both of these dudes. They're going to get the most receptions. They're going to get the most volume on the team. And they're not going to be the highest owned stack. So I think you have some high upside here. So when it comes to running back, where do you want to go? You want to go Brian Hill or like some of these dudes? I mean, you could pretty much play anybody here. But you're going to have to find someone either mid-range or value, most likely. So what are you thinking?
I mean, for Ben DiNucci, so here's the thing. I think your point is... most Ben DiNucci builds are probably going to have Raquel Armstead. So let's actually build with what would you say, Abram Smith? Let's actually
Brian
build
Hill.
with him.
I said Brian Hill.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that we can
let's
afford.
go with Brian Hill. He's a little more expensive.
I don't know that we can afford Abram Smith because he's 8.4K. That might hurt us too much. A guy like Brian Hill, I think, is pretty decent play because he gets involved in the pass game a little bit too. So look, we've got about 5K a pop for 3 spots. I'm not super worried about the defense. We can go down on that, but we're gonna have to find a value. We're gonna have to find a value dude right now. Where does that value come in at, man? Like, we probably can't go too high above 5K. So, I mean, you could run it back with a dude like Tolliver or Robertson. I don't know that I want to do that. So where do we go here? Sidney Sweeney? I mean...
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's a fine play. I think you can even try out Tyler Vaughn's or Lucky Jackson since it's GPP.
Yeah.
That may not be saving enough, though. And I'm going to tell you, Eli Rogers.
Yeah, I feel you. Let's go Lucky Jackson for right now, since that's such a high total. You could do a little mini stack. It's probably stupid. Let's just plug in. Let me plug in Orlando for now. I know that's crazy. Just give me a second. 7,100. Does that do anything for us? Darius Shepard. That's pretty nice. That's not bad. I don't know if I'm super excited about playing Guardians defense. Let me go up. What's the lowest defense you're interested in playing here? I mean, look, playing the Battlehawks defense along with Brian Hill is pretty nice.
And what does that give you? 6K?
6K.
I throw in
Austin
Prohl.
Yeah, I mean you're really getting weird here with your running back, wide receiver, defense. I don't mind it, but Tyler Vaughn's probably.
Yeah. Travell Harris is interesting.
Yeah, Travell Harris is interesting. If you're fading those other two pass catchers, maybe you want to go with a guy like Harris in a GPP. But guess what? We're missing Vipers. I don't think you absolutely need Vipers, but you probably should find one Vipers, dude. I don't know that we can get there in this lineup, though. That's why it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to get a Ben DiNucci stack unless you're going down to VC, like you're going like Blake Jackson and VC, or Hammond and Blake Jackson. That's probably going to be your best option. This is not going to be an easy stack to build with. I'm not going to avoid it, obviously, but I'm not hand building any of this shit. It's just going to be too hard to hand build. I'm going to set my rules in the optimizer, and the chips will fall where they may. You want to do a Hundley stack as we wrap this up?
Let's do it.
All right. So I know we didn't talk about AJ McCarron. I'm definitely interested in him, but we're running out of time here. Let's do Hundley. Let's do Badette. And let's run it back with Abram Smith. Let's start there. I like this. Now let's start to try to get some studs. We're gonna have to get probably guys like Pearson, probably guys like Burnett or Kirkland. We probably can only get one. So who do we get? Do you want to? Well, we already have Badette. Sorry. Probably. Do you want to get Houston here? We got to get Houston, but we don't have a Seattle guy. This is tough.
I mean, look. So for Houston, I think we just go with John Trey Kirkland.
Okay.
I like Kirkland, man.
Yeah, agreed.
He's my guy.
So do you want to go like value from Seattle here, like VC?
I mean, how? Yeah, I guess we're gonna have to because we're paying up. Yeah, VC's fine.
So if you're gonna go value, you might as well go value from one of these teams with high volume and a lot of pass attempts. So that's actually not bad. So 4,400 for 2 spots. So let's pick our defense here. Where are we at? We got. Maybe you can go with Kirkland and Houston Roughnecks, or you can go down to your You can do Sea Dragons. You can do Battlehawks. Let's try Sea Dragons. That gets us 4,900. What does that do for us? Does that get us anything?
I mean, you're back to like C.K. Sweeting, Sydney Sweeney, Tyler Vaughn's.
Yeah. So I think it's just pick your poison at that point. Hopefully you can do this with TJ Hammond, and you could switch out VC for somebody else. Like you can go up from VC. What does that get us? 5,800. Where does that put us? Cody Latimer. Hey, that's not bad. What do you think about this? Hundley, Abram Smith, Badette, Kirkland, Latimer, Hammonds if Ellison's out, and then Sea Dragons defense. I don't hate that at all. And now you could come up off.
That's fine, man.
You could come up off of the Sea Dragons defense here and go with the Battlehawks. Do 2 different builds. Do 10 different builds off of this core here. All right, man. What did we learn? How are you feeling? It's hard to build cash. We don't have good ownership projections. Even if we have them, they're probably not great, not super accurate. There's nothing wrong. These sites are doing their best they can, but it's hard to predict this stuff. So what did you learn, man?
Yeah, pricing's real efficient this week. We're gonna have to find some value that we're comfortable with playing. Unfortunately, right now, I just hope I don't end up playing, 180% Eli Rogers. I won't. There's no way I'll end up doing that. I'll rotate in some of those other guys that we're looking at. You got to play some value this week, and you're gonna have to set some minimum on that salary button this week.
Yeah. Make sure you guys subscribe. I think we're going to start a show on Mondays, a live show. I don't know if we're going to get to it this week, but I'm going to try. Just wrapping up, just more of a general XFL talk and wrap up. Hoping to get a guest or two that can join us on that. So look out for that on Monday, potentially. I'll be posting maybe in the community post on YouTube here. But obviously we'll continue to do our main slate XFL DFS content. Maybe we'll do a showdown slate like we did for that Seattle versus Vegas game. Maybe we'll do another one as some of these games start to become really good. But Ellie, what are your thoughts here, man? Anything to send us out on? I don't know, man. We're at an hour and 5 minutes. I think we said all we need to say, right?
I'll upload the updated stats into the Discord for everybody to use. That's it.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
The stats that you put together are nice. I mean, you just grabbed it. You just basically scraped it off of the XFL site, but it's nice to see all these stats that you could sort all in one place. It's really easy because there's just not a lot of those options out there. So good job, man. Appreciate that. If you guys want that like bird's eye view of the slate, just jump in the Discord. Help us out with that. Throw us a like on this. I'd like to get to 50 likes on this. I know that we're starting to see some of these contests die down a bit for XFL, and we're starting to see some of the viewership fall off. But those of you who are watching and following us, we really appreciate you. We're going to keep going strong. We will see you most likely on Monday. If not, we'll see you for next week's week 5. See you later.